The idea about this session, and actually for us in thinking about the conference, was to think about the relationships between research and activism, but also to carry that through, to think about what does that mean for how we produce knowledge, and that must relate to how we organise conferences. So this session is about an interactive session. We want to really give you the space to think and to talk with each other, and we've got 3 performances that are going to show different aspects, both of the research and some of the questions and issues that we're tussling with. And one of the important things that we're thinking about are the relationships between different sort of methodologies. And here specifically, what might art offer us that other research methods don't? In particular in relation to migrants, thinking about art and stories particularly, there's a real voracious appetite for stories about migrants and for migrant stories. So one of the things that we want to put up for question is, what do we do with that, both in research and activism? How do we work with enforced storytelling? What are the politics of storytelling? How do we represent migrant and migrant experiences in ways that don't reinscribe them into dominant stereotypes or narrow ways of thinking about migrants? So what we're going to do today is just offer some scenes, and really carrying on from Rita Chadda's questions today, we've posed each performance around what would you do type question.
For you, researcher, for you. I will get buses and walk miles for you. Smile for you, spill bile for you. Tick boxes and sign forms, not knowing what to expect from you. When the red light's flashing, get ready, get set, go for you. Say that again for you. Again for you? This time a little louder into the mic for you. Come over a bit giggly, a bit posh, talk some tosh for you. Reminisce, curse, lie for you. Break ice, banter and rehearse. Stutter and sigh for you. Unlock what I didn't know I knew, I now know for you. A squidgy fruit squeeze, I bleed stories for you. For her to transcribe word for word for you. Insert pauses and blanks and dashes for you. Catch my rhythm and groove, dancing in lines for you, in lines for you. Fed into a machine, coded quotes plucked here and there for you. I meet Foucault, dust and hooks. Papers, blogs and books for you. Not quite yet dead, I might come back to you. My scarf, my hair, the inane trust in you. That hour when we met, just who were you?
Oh, hello,
love you from the university. Susan, nice to meet you. I'm a bit early. Thought I'd just make myself a cuppa. Oh, don't worry. You can have mine. I'll make myself another while you sort out your bits and pieces. Where did you say you was from? Oh, Oxford. Well, that's nice. Bet you've got a nice house and all, right? Not like round here. Well, no, of course, it didn't always used to be like this round here. Oh, no, it was thriving before the car plant closed. Everyone knew everyone, bit like EastEnders. Oh, of course, it was all English back then. Not like now. I'm very racist back then too, that's true. You won't mind me saying that, will you? That's why you're here, right? Well, the social club didn't used to allow foreigners in. Oh, no. They barred them. No nonsense in them days. Ah. Of course, they've crept in, but they still won't mix with us. Nah, they got their own shops, their own language, even their own post office queue. No, I'm not joking. They don't queue with us. They just walk straight up to the counter. They think they can do what they want. Oh, they don't mix, they don't integrate. Never works, does it? Oh, Oreos. Don't mind if I do. It's a nice handbag. Are you rich? I said, are you rich? Oh, don't answer then, but you've been from the university and all. I imagine you are. I was just wondering, how much does the average house cost in Oxford then? Well, must be about 400 grand, right? Round here, the same house will cost 120 grand. That's why it's such a dump. They're keeping this the cheapest area to get all the people out of London that they don't want. All the problem families, all the undesirables, all the immigrants. Oh, that's why we've lost loads of neighbours. All the immigrants are snatching up the houses. Ah. The rich ones buy them and then rent them out. 4 families to 1 room. Rubbish everywhere. Now there's young people that have grown up here and they've applied for houses, but the immigrants have got them. Oh, we're losing droves of people around here. Oh, and the council are denying it. Saying that our people get housed first. They can't pull the wool over our eyes. We can see what's happening. Take a walk down the high street. No, better still, go up the hospital. It's heaving. My neighbour, poor man, he had a heart attack or something. He went up there. He had to spend the whole night before he could get up on the ward. They're killing us slowly. Wearing us down so slow we won't even notice until it's too late. Who did I vote for? I used to vote Labour. Not anymore, love. I voted BNP, I don't mind admitting it. This government, they're the ones making us racist. You want to know why? You want to know what did it for me? I'll tell you a story, right? Now, I don't like to complain, but my little boy, he was born very premature. Oh, yours was too, was he, love? How much? 2 months? Well, mine was nearly 3 months, right? Oh, he's all right now. He's love him to bits, but he's disabled, you know, got lots of problems. Do you remember how careful you have to be when you first get them home because their immune system hasn't developed? Well, with my little boy, because he was born with disabilities, that lasted for 2 years. Oh, I was always disinfecting everything. I had to get everyone to wash their hands before they could hold him. I was terrified. I was so stressed in case the cold could kill him. I wasn't sleeping, we got no help, I was desperate. I loved him and all, but there were times when I wanted to throw him out the window and jump right after him. And then, just recently, we found out that we were supposed to have help all this time. That we were supposed to get him labelled
as a child in need, and we were supposed to have all this support. But the council were too bloody lazy to tell us. They didn't care until he was 5 years old. So when I see all these immigrants getting these houses, and I can't get any support for my disabled son, and now I can't even get a decent school for him, do you know what I mean? It's favouritism towards the blacks and the foreigners. They must be laughing at us. So that's why I voted BNP. And when I see people trespassing, treading their muck all over this country, I say, send them home. In those go-home vans. In fact, make them bigger. Climbing over our walls and coming in on those lorries all wrapped round the axles, crammed into those boats. Ugh, none of them are checked for diseases. Take TB, right? TB's rife. Our country wiped out TB, and now it's back again because of them. What about you? Do you think that's fair? No, I don't think it's complicated. Love. Is it fair? Yes or no? With the greatest fucking respect, love, you're not answering the question, are you? Oh, you'll ask my questions. You'll ask me questions, but you don't want to answer any of mine, do you? I walk into your house, right, and I've got TB, and you've got kids, so you know what it's like. Maybe some of your friends have got a little boy like mine, little disabled boy like mine, and I come into your house, and I'm coughing, and I'm spluttering all over the place with TB. Now, is that fair? Is it fair? Is it fair, though? Answer the fucking question!
As you can see, we're hoping that these kinds of snippets of performance, and I'm sure you could gather that's a snippet from one of the focus groups, will help us discuss some of the other issues going on. But we wanted to start with just the end of that conversation, because we'd had a discussion in the team about, well, what are you supposed to say? How would you answer the fucking question? And I wondered if people have got any ideas about, or maybe experiences from their own lives about confronted with that kind of explanation for why you might vote BNP or why you might feel as you do. What should we say?
It's not just the BNP we've got to address. Leicester is a Labour, almost 100% Labour City Council, and they've just changed the rules to make it virtually impossible for refugees to get council housing. And it's very much along those same lines. They're going to give housing to those who deserve it.
It's just another example, but it's not a solution, I'm sorry. I was interviewing a white working class builder recently. He'd lost his job and was about to be evicted from his home and was struggling to apply for benefits. And we met quite a few times over the course of a couple of weeks, and eventually he started speaking more openly to me. And at one point he just said, you know, it's really frustrating because I can't live in the area where I grew up. I can't get benefits, but you get people who can just turn up and the next day they receive benefits. And this is a white guy talking to me, a black woman. And so it's not like an overt racism, but it's just this absolute frustration that they can't get support, and they buy into this media myth that others are getting support. I think for me, it's about breaking down stereotypes. I'm a Romani gypsy woman, and I have comments made to me all the time from, you're not really one of them. What's different about you then? Because you can't possibly be. And I think it's about all of us actually turning around and saying, well, no, I'm not a posh woman. I was on the roadside till I was 16. You know, it's about breaking down stereotypes, and because once you don't become the frightening other, you just become an interesting other. And I think we should celebrate otherness. You know, we are all individuals and we are unique, and I'm very proud to be another. But I'm an interesting other, not a detrimental other.
That's lovely distinction. Thank you. Should we try and talk about from the middle two, about the role of the researcher in immigration research, and whether people here have things they'd like to say about innovative ways of researching immigration? Because you've heard quite a lot in the course of the day about how we've done things. And I think really part of the performance is showing that for all the things we tried, there's some kinds of scripts which have just replayed, because just changing the chairs around is not sufficient, obviously. Or if there's anything that we've talked about in the course of the day that you think is interesting about how even in this project we tried to reimagine the role of the researcher.
I was just thinking in terms of the concerns addressed by the lady in the last piece, I think that we can acknowledge those because obviously they're her real concerns, whether or not they're based on fact or kind of reading the media and being misinformed. I think we still have to take them seriously. And what researchers might do is actually to hear them and to listen and actually to investigate each of the concerns raised and to try and unpack each of those areas about the fact that, you live in Oxford, you must live in a nice house. But her resentment isn't really against the researcher, it's against the fact that she probably can't get a house, finds it struggles to get onto the housing ladder maybe, and she fears for her child. And so, although it's being expressed as a concern about migration and foreigners, it's actually a concern about resources and whether or not the fact that she feels that the government hasn't provided resources, her and her family. So perhaps that the researcher could, look into that and try and unpack the reasons behind the concerns and what the real issues are and try and bring them to light.
I think I would probably have started to communicate with the person in the situation and not stay there as a passive researcher who's not involved at all. I would have said maybe you can try to see it from a different perspective and try to link it to kind of other bigger issues. And I was in the workshop on resistance before, and I think we also talked about this, trying to not see the issue of migration as singled out away from other topics, but linking it to capitalism, exploitation, colonialism. And I think this is exactly what's happened there as well, because if a researcher comes with her fancy handbag from Oxford, obviously this can reinforce.
We shouldn't get too fixated on the fictional handbag, but it's just a kind of theatrical trope.
It still shows something, but you can also reimagine a different role of the researcher to be involved, to also have a political idea, because I don't think that the research is necessarily neutral at all, and this also reflects then going there and talking to a working class woman and just trying to extract information from her and using her as well. And I think this was also shown as well, that the research subject is just used for another purpose, which doesn't really then serve any community or to better anything, just for the researcher to advance herself in her project.
Oh, that's quite harsh. I don't feel that's how it was, really.
I'm just trying to think, because my research is with immigrants, not so much immigrants, but actually people who are mobile travelers to the UK. But the scheme does have a predominance from Australia, New Zealand, Canada, right? So this othering I found was quite prominent among them, and the role of researcher, as an example, was quite. I couldn't perfectly do it really well during fieldwork, and I've had this experience. One person actually telling me that he thought they should be allowed to be here more or better. And he actually looked at my hand and said, "There's no difference in colour," actually saying things like that. And I'm thinking, okay, so I think imagining the role of the researcher in immigration research is quite significant, especially when we're thinking through EU, non-EU, because privileges and the sort of restrictions are so different. So I'm trying to think of how do we incorporate that in thinking through immigration research.
This is a bit of a tangent, really, which is some other research I've been doing recently, which is looking at how people get into high levels of debt and become depressed and inactive at the same time. And very often, this was just a thought triggered by the very powerful performance, which is very often the starting point is some kind of totally unexpected medical or health event that causes a rupture in all sorts of other types of relationships and triggers a sort of chain reaction, resulting in people eventually looking for someone to blame. And in the situations I've been looking at, they end up sort of blaming themselves and living with very high levels of shame. And I suppose just what was going on in that performance really was the woman refusing shame in a way. And that's not to defend it, but I think in a way it's a way of avoiding the depressive response, which is to take on responsibility and then to try and hide and exercise shame. And I suppose that whole I vote BNP and I'm not ashamed to say so, the contrast to that, some of the groups I've been looking at, is to not actually want to talk about what you're angry about at all, because you think it's your fault in some way. So that's just a sort of just listening to the performance and thinking about how do you engage with that person. I don't know what that means, how you engage with that person exactly, but there is a sort of outward orientation there that potentially could be the start of a different type of conversation, but I'm not quite sure what. And the point about health and medical events, I think, is kind of quite important.
I just thought we've not really addressed how to answer that question, and because the question that was asked was not necessarily. There was a whole lot of things that were said in that performance about that can be related to structural and political issues, but the question that was posed was, what would you do if I came into your house with TB and your children were there? Would you let me in? And you could hear in that performance, don't say it's complicated. So I actually don't think starting to embark on a dialogue, which is important in some places, about those political backgrounds would help in that particular situation for anyone. So it's more that how do we deal with that immediate question, and why is it so hard to answer? And if it's because the answer would be, oh, well, I wouldn't want someone with TB to cough on my children, why is that? Is there something else about who's being centred there? And is there a way of turning that very powerful image around and saying, how would you feel if I turned you away, if you came to my house with TB and I pushed you out the door? How would you feel? And again, it might not answer the question. You might still get, what's that fucking question? But the difficulty of it is not necessarily the intellectual argument, but the rawness of that. And I also wanted to, I think Elsa kind of mentioned it actually, but the kind of different levels of the role of the researcher in this, because class was really present there, but also the racialised place of the researcher, depending who's hearing that, it will be really difficult to answer in different ways and to react to. And I think that's important to recognise in the full complexity of that kind of interaction.
From the research I've done, it's always started from a premise of me being brutally honest about who I am over a long period of time. And actually then, I mean, obviously it all depends how much time you've got and what sort of methodology you're using. But I remember I was doing some work in a school, and it was not in this country, but the first thing I did is share my life story on like the first encounter. And I think that I just saw so many people like opt for talking to me then, because I was a person first, but I also was there to do a job. And I think that's, like for me, you have to keep that in mind, that I'm a person first, you're a person first, even though I have an intention. So honesty.
Hi everyone, I'm Maisie. Yasmin and I were talking about this performance, and obviously Yasmin was the researcher at the time. And I suppose we just wondered whether anybody felt that they knew what they would say in that situation, especially regarding the question of TB. So when she says, this country had wiped out TB, now it's back again because of them. Does anyone sort of have an idea of how they would answer? Would you like to come down?
You walked into that just so easily.
We're just rewind for a bit.
Rewind, all right. So,
Okay.
so I'm going to do. I'm just going to talk to you.
Okay.
I'm just going to say what I've been saying.
Right.
And then just interrupt me.
Okay. So am I myself or am I Yasmin?
Not yourself.
Be your researcher.
Be yourself.
Okay, so I'm a white woman.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. Okay, all right. I've got my line now. Coming in on those lorries, all wrapped round the axles, or cramming themselves into those boats. Oh, none of them are checked to see if they've got disease. Look at TB, right? TB's rife. Our country had wiped out TB, and now it's back again because of them. Now, is that fair?
It's not fair, and it's not true either.
Right. It's not true? What do you mean?
It's not true. The reason that I'm saying it's not true is because I've got a friend, she's a TB doctor. She's been working in the East End of London, which has got some issues very similar to the kinds of things that you've been talking about. And I've had long conversations with her about this. And it's true, there's people coming into this country from all over the world. When people arrive at Heathrow, there's people who are given chest x-rays to check whether they've got TB or not.
Yeah.
It has never been wiped out of this country. It's always existed. But the reason that it's always existed is because there's always been inequality. There's always been some people who are...
So you're saying there's not more TB in this country now than there was before?
Before when?
I don't know, before all these migrants started coming over.
There's been TB in this country. There's been TB in the rest of the world. TB has been moving from place to place. The issue is not about TB.
Is there more TB in this country now that there's migrants coming over?
There is more TB in the world because of the increase in poverty in different parts of the world, including the poverty that's existing in this country, and the fact that people are having to. Well, I can go.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Anyone else?
Now you know what the game is, yes. Only worked once, that trick.
Anybody else want to come down?
I don't want to come down, I just want to say something about the topic, if that's okay.
I'll give you my finger.
As with one of the original comments here, I was a bit uncomfortable with the performance. The performance was great, but the idea behind it. And it had to do with the whole class element of it. And I was thinking, well, how would I answer the question? And the main thing I wanted to say in relation to how I'd answer the question is, well, you've got to deal with the lack of knowledge that this person is coming in with. And then I was thinking, well, why is that hard? Why is it hard to deal with the lack of knowledge, right? The way it was just confronted, I mean, that's exactly what's needed. But that wasn't possible for the original researcher. It wasn't possible for people to tap into at the beginning. And it strikes me it's because of the really weird class dynamic that you've got in this country. There's this notion that you're supposed to be respectful towards the working class. That's fine, but the problem is not working class versus some other class. The problem is lack of knowledge. And so I think it's a matter of confronting that exactly as we just saw. I hope I haven't said something wrong. I feel like I've just said something wrong. There's just weird ideas about class in this country.
I'd like to abuse the chair and say that I'd really agree that my sense of this project and others, and just from being in the world, that speaking to people who think they have less power than you, whether or not they do, in a way which even has a sniff that you're trying to educate them, is politically not very effective.
I think there's something about, so when you were asking about how you'd answer the question, I think that I would answer the question by saying, well, I'd take you to the hospital. And I think,
I love it.
And because it's actually, what was interesting was that she was kind of doing this like, like a thought experiment. You were being asked to do a thought experiment. So by then kind of like, if you just give facts, you're not entering into the spirit of, actually, she's asking me to do a thought experiment. Now I am going to do that thought experiment and take it in the way that you want to. And that's, in a way, I suppose then it links to this whole stuff about using the imagination and just kind of not just giving facts, although those obviously matter.
So sorry, just if you don't mind, just come in on that. So the question that she asks was, is that fair? I come into your house and I've got TB, so that she's very limiting the question that you can answer. So I mean, how would you? So if I said to you, well, I come into your house and I've got TB and I'm coughing and spluttering everywhere. Now, is that fair?
Yeah, I'd say it's not fair that you're having to cough and splutter everywhere. I'm going to do something and take you to the doctor. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, so you'd meet it, in a way, you'd meet it with that energy, yeah. Interesting.
Thank you all very much for humouring us for so long.
So give it up for Macy Bryce.
Yeah, excellent.
Thank you.
A van going down the street is showing a huge placard. The message is far from sweet, provocative and hard. The song that the racist sings denies our diversity, distinct but concentric rings in life's university. Differencism, like a schism, divides us from one another. Through the prism of skepticism, we learn to distrust our brother. All our caring and our sharing, differencism is not seeing. Let's be daring and start declaring that everyone's a human being. Look, there's an alien trespassing upon my patch. The police should be jailing anyone they could catch. The future's looking bleaker. If you need a place to stay, and no asylum seeker is welcome here today. Because differencism, like a schism, divides us from one another. Through the prism of skepticism, we learn to distrust our brother. All our caring and our sharing, differencism is not seeing. Let's be daring and start declaring that everyone's a human being. There's always been migration to this green and pleasant land. In this very mixed nation, many tribes took a hand. The Celts and the Romans came, Saxons, Vikings, Normans too. Germans and Dutch joined the game, adding to the rich brew. Yes, differencism, like a schism, divides us from one another. Through the prism of skepticism, we learn to mistrust our brother. All our caring and our sharing, differencism is not seeing. Let's be daring and start declaring that everyone's a human being. Differencism can create assumptions both wrong and rude, from dislike to outright hate, a misconceived attitude. From neighbors across the road to neighbors across the sea, we must all adopt a code based on humanity. Because differencism, like a schism, divides us from one another. And through the prism of skepticism, we learn to distrust our brother. All our caring and our sharing, differencism is not seeing. Let's be daring and start declaring that everyone's a human being. Let's be daring and start declaring that everyone's a human being.